Louisville is an absolutely gorgeous suburb of Denver that sits just outside of Boulder, Colorado, with terrific views of the Front Range. Would you be surprised if I told you this is a desired spot to move? But before you go and make any decisions on whether or not Louisville is right for you, let's get a bit more information on the suburb. Is it a good fit? Could you see yourself living there? Well, I have a few reasons why you might say yes, but let's find out. So the first aspect that we need to talk about is the lifestyle that can be found in Louisville. So Louisville definitely has a smaller town atmosphere to it. As I mentioned before, it's just outside of Boulder, Colorado, and nestled in between Superior and Lafayette, which I recommend checking out after this if you're curious. The overall town has a population just around 20,000, and it's pretty clear as you're driving around, the town is quite close together, at least compared to other towns nearby that may be a bit more spread out. There's a big commercial section that borders Superior down to the southwest right off of Route 36, which is the main avenue from this suburb if you're going into either Boulder or Denver. Other than that, everything is pretty much residential, except for, of course, the beautiful Main Street that can be found in the heart of Louisville. There are a wonderful selection of shops, restaurants, and cafes and bars to explore along Main Street. One thing also worth mentioning is the Louisville Farmers Market that is hosted here. It begins May 11th and runs until about mid-October. Every Saturday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Come and check out a ton of local vendors and spend the summer morning enjoying the strong sense of community here. You have to go at least once this summer. But now if we shift our focus to the outdoors, which is a central theme to any town along the Front Range, Louisville is no stranger to providing its residents an ability to enjoy the beautiful Colorado outdoors. Locally, within the town limits, there are several open areas and parks, such as the Louisville Community Park, the Warenberg Open Space, as well as a section of the Coal Creek Trail, which is a 15-mile long trail that parallels Coal Creek. It begins in Superior to the southwest and runs all the way up to Erie, Colorado. It is a fantastic, level, and scenic trail that many residents frequent, especially in the summer. But also given Louisville's location to places like Boulder, which I'll talk about more a little later, the ease with which you can head off and explore all of the locations along the Front Range is unbelievable. There is a ton of open space that runs up from Golden, through Boulder, and up through Longmont that is yours to explore. I have some other videos that talk about the outdoor activities you can find in and around Boulder. I recommend checking those out after this. But in all, Louisville captures this incredible life that you can find along the Front Range. Okay, so the second aspect we need to talk about is cost. So if you're unfamiliar with Boulder County and its home prices, here's the rundown. Boulder County is expensive. Colorado is expensive, truly. But Boulder County definitely stands out. In other videos where I talk about Longmont or Erie, for example, the median home prices there aren't as egregiously high, let's say. But it's worth mentioning that this part of the state is more or less luxurious. At the time of this video, the median home price for a single-family home in Louisville sits at a 6-month average of around $982,000. The reason I average this is because, as you can see, there is quite a bit of spread on the graph. Now, if you're interested in finding a townhome or condo, the median price sits at around $469,000. However, something worth mentioning is that the total volume of townhomes and condos in Louisville it's quite small. Not that you can't find one per se, but I'd argue the predominant real estate sold here is going to be single family homes. But then something we also need to discuss is price per square foot, because I believe this is a useful metric to include when you're looking for a place to buy. So if we start with the single family homes, the median price per square foot falls at around $414, which means that based on these numbers, the median home size in Louisville is roughly around 2,369 square feet. Now compare this to the townhome and condo median price per square foot, which is around $382. That would mean that the median size for a condo or townhome in Louisville is closer to 1,227 square feet. It's something to keep in mind, especially if you're looking for a home with a little bit more space. And now the final aspect of living in Louisville is its proximity to places like Boulder and Denver. As I mentioned earlier in the video, Louisville sits right on Route 36, which is that diagonal highway that takes you into either Boulder or Denver. I'd say it's only about a 20-minute drive from the center of Louisville into the heart of Boulder, and about a 30-plus-minute drive into Denver. I say plus because if you hit traffic, it's gonna add to your commute, if we're being honest. Now, speaking of commuting, about 60% of the residents in Louisville commute to work, which, given its location, makes quite a bit of sense. But even if your work doesn't take you into these cities, or perhaps you work remotely, it's very easy from Louisville to get into the other suburbs of Denver. Of course, if you're headed into the southeastern part of the city, it might take you a while. But now, if you're trying to get up into the mountains and aren't headed up through Boulder, depending on where you're going, you'll most likely go down to I-70. Now, one way to do that is to take Highway 36 all the way into Denver and then hop on I-70 a little bit to the south. Or what you could do is go west to Highway 93, which runs directly along the Front Range, south out of Boulder, and down into Golden. It's actually an unbelievably gorgeous drive with a ton of open space to see, although please keep your eyes on the road. And it's one of my personal favorites. Plus, highlighting the outdoor lifestyle that can be found here from a previous section, this highway feeds into a numerous amount of hiking locations and trails. Now, Louisville is one of the farther suburbs from Denver. There's no denying that. And it's a bit less urban compared to other closer suburbs like Broomfield or Westminster. But even despite its distance from the city, the peace and quiet that can be found there might be worth the commute. And so now, if I've interested you in the suburbs of Denver just outside of Boulder, then I recommend checking out this video here. Erie is another suburb of Denver just northeast of Louisville that has generated a ton of interest over the past few years. You'll see why in a second. This is Life on the Front Range. I'll see you there.